you probably heard of his name, especially well, in the theaters. He's had Chronicles of Narnia's, 5-volume series. He was a storybook teller to kids. He was a philosopher and an English teacher in Oxford. That was his main academics. And he taught those things, but he was one of the greatest theologians of this century that really wasn't a theologian by scholastic terms. He wrote some amazing things. His partial autobiography, called Surprised by Joy, had a tough time with this as well. Let me read just a couple captions. If you read it, it's pretty heavy. Surprised by Joy, anything that C.S. Lewis wrote, even his Chronicles of Narnia, are pretty spacey to grasp a hold of, but the analogies portray Christ greatly. He begins to talk about his childhood and understanding life and the experiences of those things, trying to understand his relationship with God. He says, I call it joy. Animal land was not imaginative, but certain other experiences were. The first in itself, a memory of a memory. As I stood beside a flowering currant brush on a summer day, there suddenly arose in me without warning, as it were from a depth of years and centuries ago, the memory of an earlier morning in a household when my brother had brought his toy garden into the nursery. And it's difficult for me to find words strong enough for the sensation which came over me, Milton's enormous bliss, as he described it in another term that he read, comes somewhere near it. It was a sensation, of course, a desire, but a desire of what? Before I knew it, what I desired, the desire itself, was gone. The whole glimpse withdrawn. The world turned commonplace or even stirred by a longing, for the longing had just ceased. In a sense, in the central story of my life is nothing else but the equality of common of these three experiences. I doubt whether anyone has tasted it or whatever, if both were in his power, exchanged for all the pleasures of the world, but joy is never in our power. Pleasure often is. He says that you've come across where you heard a song. It's like, oh, I remember back in 1977, I was in high school, junior year, and I was at this dance, and this song came on, and I can remember the fragrance of the girl that I danced with. I mean, you get those kind of flashbacks when you see something, smell something, and you're transferred back a couple decades ago, and you're like there. As soon as you get there, that whole experience is gone. It just evaporates. And you wonder where that came from. You and I are created for the experience, the feeling, the sensation of joy. But not joy in external circumstances. See, joy in external circumstances is exactly what the commandment out of Deuteronomy is speaking to. They found joy in other pagan gods. They found joy in the development of their own crops. They found joy in the experience that they had in life that God had given them, but they did not find joy in Him. Because joy in all these other circumstances that you and I seek all the time, we're created for joy. And we will seek out these circumstances, whether it's a date with my wife, an awesome meal at my favorite restaurant, where these things conjure up within me is like, oh, I'm going to go on a date. Yeah, hey, I'm going to get dressed up, cleaned up, shaved. I'm going to go out. This is nice. And we smile. And we experience happiness or joy because we're anticipating something that pleases us. But this is not the joy that sustains us. And this is not the joy that's commanded. The commanded joy is that which sustains us now and all eternity. And that joy comes in our place in Christ and seeking Him. It's not enough to seek God. To seek God is insufficient for Christian life. Let that settle in a second. It's to seek the joy in Christ that is sufficient for Christian living. It is the joy in Him that is commanded and promised for all of life as well as this life. You ready? And it looks like, really, Jerry? Come on, seeking the Lord is what we always preach. In fact, you preach it all the time. This is what Jesus says here. Just as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Remain in my love. If you obey my commandments and you remain in my love, just as I have obeyed my Father's commandments and remain in His love, I have told you all these things. All these things I have told you, that my joy may be in you, and that your joy may be complete. All these things are written. All the promises, all the declaration of the glory of God, us understanding why Christ came, all these things are for us to have not our joy, but the joy of the Son of God, who is exponentially much larger than you and I. He is unimaginably comprehensive. There's no way that you and I can get our minds around how wonderful, how majestic, how big, how comprehensive He is. From the